Welcome back, everyone. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. We are unpacking one of the most sweeping, dramatic, and truly foundational stories of ancient history. We're looking at the true roots of a legendary dynasty, a story just packed with divine curses, secret pacts, and the incredibly heavy price of human ambition. To effectively explain this epic source material, we need to dive deep into the ancient texts. Let's understand this tale in detail and map out exactly how a single moment of anger birthed an entire empire.
Okay, listen to this quote. Desire is never satisfied by its fulfillment. It only grows like a fire fed with ghee. This profound realization comes from King Yayati himself, and it serves as the absolute philosophical core of the entire Kuru dynasty's history. Really think about that for a second. Everything we're about to explore in this explainer, every war, every broken heart, every curse, it all stems from human desire and the desperate attempts to control it. Keep this in the back of your mind as we journey through the lives of these incredible figures.
Okay, let's dive into this with Section 1, The Well and the King.
To really get how this massive lineage started, we have to look at a seemingly small, almost petty dispute between two incredibly powerful, headstrong women. On one side, we have Devayani. She's the fiery Brahmin daughter of sage Shukracharya. Now, her dad is no ordinary sage. He actually possesses the Sanjivana Vidya, which is literally the secret to reviving the dead. Because of this, he's totally indispensable to the Asuras, or demons. On the other side, we've got Sharmishta, the incredibly proud Asura princess, daughter of the Asura king Vrishaparva. This single personality clash between the fiery Brahmin and the proud princess, that's what set the stage for an entire dynasty.
So here's how it all went down. The two women were bathing in a forest when a simple mix-up over their clothing on the riverbank sparked a furious argument. Sharmishta, totally blinded by her royal pride, mocks Devayani's father and actually pushes Devayani into a dry well, just leaving her there. But, fate intervenes. A thirsty King Yayati, exhausted from a hunt, wanders by looking for water. He sees the beautiful Devayani trapped down there and rescues her by grasping her right hand to pull her up. Now here's the catch. In ancient customs, grasping an unmarried woman's right hand like that meant you were officially accepting her as your wife. By simply offering a helping hand, King Yayati unknowingly initiated a lifelong, inescapable bond.
Which brings us right into Section 2, A Father's Wrath and Curse.
Obviously, Devayani wasn't about to let this insult slide, and our father's wrath was absolutely absolute. When sage Shukracharya hears what the princess did to his daughter, he threatens to just pack up and completely abandon the Asura king, taking his life-saving magic with him. Terrified, the king begs for forgiveness. Devayani demands a brutal punishment. The proud Princess Sharmishta must become her lifelong maid. Talk about a power dynamic completely flipping, right? Furthermore, Devayani insists that King Yayati marry her since he took her hand. Sage Shukracharya approves the union, bypassing the strict caste rules of the time. But, and this is a huge but, he issues Yayati a very clear, very dangerous condition. Yayati is strictly forbidden from ever bedding Devayani's new royal maid, Sharmishta.
And this brilliantly illustrates the tragic flaw of King Yayati. He simply could not resist his desires. Years later, Sharmishta approaches him in secret, pleading for a child, arguing that since he's Devayani's husband, he's technically her master too. Yayati yields. Over time, Sharmishta secretly gives birth to 3 boys. The secret actually holds up until one day, Devayani discovers these divine-looking children playing in the Ashok Vataka. She asks them who their dad is, and they point right at King Yayati. Betrayed, Devayani flees to her father. An enraged Shukracharya unleashes a devastating curse upon Yayati. Instant, debilitating old age. Literally, in the blink of an eye, this strong, youthful king becomes a frail, wrinkled old man.
That absolute panic leads us to Section 3, The Illusion of Desire. Stripped of his youth, right in his prime, Yayati is completely consumed by panic. Shukracharya did offer him one tiny loophole, though. Yayati could exchange his old age with someone willing to give up their youth. So he calls upon his sons. He first begs his eldest, Yadu, to take his wrinkles and weakness. Yadu flat out refuses, arguing old age strips away all joy in life. Furious, Yayati curses Yadu to lose his entire royal inheritance. He moves down the line to his middle sons, Turvasu, Druhu, and Anu. They all refuse this horrific trade. In anger, Yayati curses them to rule over barbarians and outcasts, meaning they'll never inherit the true throne. Finally, he turns to his youngest son, Puru, and without hesitation, Puru gracefully accepts the burden. He takes on the decrepit old age, completely sacrificing himself so his father can reclaim his vibrant youth. Now we enter Section 4, Yayati's Fall from Grace.
Yayati got exactly what he wanted. His youth was back. But at what cost? 1,000. That is the exact number of years King Yayati spent indulging in every worldly pleasure imaginable. For 10 centuries, he lived a life of absolute excess. I mean, he conquered, he ruled, he reveled in unimaginable wealth and luxury. But as those 1,000 years finally drew to a close, a really heavy realization dawned on him. He realized the truth of that quote we discussed at the very beginning. The thirst for pleasure absolutely cannot be quenched by simply indulging it.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the dramatic irony of his spiritual journey. Yayati finally returns his borrowed youth to his loyal son Puru, crowning him the rightful king of the realm. Having conquered his earthly desires, Yayati actually ascends to heaven through severe austerities. But even in heaven, his ego betrays him. Lord Indra asks him who his equal is in spiritual merit, and Yayati arrogantly declares that no one, neither God nor man, equals him. This boastful pride completely infuriates Indra, who instantly kicks him out, causing a literal fall from heaven.
So as Yayati is hurtling downward through the sky, totally stripped of his celestial glory, his path intercepts with 4 incredibly righteous kings, Ashtaka, Pratardana, Vasumanas, and Shibi. They're up there performing austerities in the heavens. Seeing the great Yayati falling, they actually catch him midair. Hearing his story, these true saints generously offer him their own accumulated spiritual merits so he won't hit rock bottom. Touched by their incredible selflessness, Yayati's ego finally shatters. He learns true humility, realizing that real greatness lies in giving, not boasting. Together with these noble kings, he ascends back to the heavens, finally at peace.
Let's move to and see how this builds in Section 5, the Grand Kuru Lineage.
With Yayati in the heavens, the earthly realm was left in the very capable hands of his youngest son, Puru. Because the older brothers were cursed, remember, the primary royal bloodline flowed entirely through him. From Puru, we get an immense, sprawling genealogy. This line produces absolute giants of Indian mythology. King Bharata, after whom the nation of Bharat is named, and the legendary King Kuru, who gives the dynasty its ultimate name, the Kauravas. This powerful, unbroken chain of rulers passes down through generations, eventually leading us all the way to King Pratipa and his son, the great King Shantanu.
Which brings us to our final anchor. Section 6, the River Goddess's Secret.
So, what does this all mean for the future of the dynasty? We're moving from a tale of youthful desire into a narrative steeped in tragic romance. The question we have to answer now is, how did this illustrious, sprawling Kuru lineage lead to the birth of its greatest guardian? To understand the destiny of the Kuru Empire, we have to look at the incredibly bizarre and heartbreaking marriage of King Shantanu. One day, King Shantanu is completely captivated by a mesmerizing woman by the riverbank. She is Ganga, the literal river goddess in human form. He falls deeply, instantly, in love and begs her to marry him. Ganga agrees, but she lays down an absolute, unyielding condition. She tells the king, "You must never question my actions, no matter what I do, and you must never try to stop me. The moment you do, I will leave you forever." Blinded by love, Shantanu agrees to this doomed pact.
But Ganga was holding a massive divine secret. Up in the celestial realm, 8 divine beings known as the Vasus had committed a grave sin. They stole the sacred wish-granting cow, Nandini, from sage Vasishta. As punishment, the sage cursed them to be born as mortal humans. Terrified of a long, painful mortal life, the Vasus begged Ganga for help. She secretly agreed to be their earthly mother. The horrific actions that followed were actually a secret act of mercy. Every time Ganga gave birth to one of Shantanu's children, she immediately took the newborn and drowned it in the river, instantly freeing the Vasu's soul from the mortal curse and sending them straight back to heaven.
You can only imagine the absolute agony of King Shantanu. He watched his wife drown 7 of his children, totally bound by his vow of silence. But when the 8th child is born and Ganga walks toward the river, the horrified king finally breaks. He physically stops her, demanding to know how a mother could be so cruel. His vow is broken. Ganga stops, reveals the secret of the cursed Vasus, and explains that this 8th child, the the one who actually initiated stealing the cow, must now live out a long mortal life. True to her word, she immediately abandons the heartbroken king, but she takes the surviving eighth son away with her to ensure he is prepared for his heavy earthly destiny.
Years later, Ganga returns the boy to King Shantanu. And wow, look at the incredible pedigree of this surviving son's education. Ganga didn't just hide him away, she had him trained by the greatest minds in the universe. He learned the mastery of the Vedas from sage Vasishta. He mastered political sciences and strategy from sage Shukracharya. And he learned the arts of divine weaponry and warfare from the invincible Parashurama. This boy was molded into an absolutely unmatched warrior prince, possessing intellect and lethal skill in equal, terrifying measure.
So, King Shantanu finally secured his heir, the boy named Devavrata. But I want to leave you with this provocative thought to ponder. At what ultimate cost to Devavrata? Born from a curse, raised by deities, and thrust into a lineage completely defined by extreme desires and rigid vows, what kind of life awaited this boy, destined to take a terrible oath of his own and become the legendary Bhishma? That heavy destiny, dear learners, is the true legacy of the Kuru lineage. Thank you so much for diving into this fascinating explainer with me today. Keep asking questions, keep analyzing the past, and I'll see you next time.